The Live Talk Show is about testimonies where you can listen to be inspired, encouraged, uplifted, and entertained. It's the life. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ashley Cotton, the host for the Live Talk Show. And of course, with me today, I do have a guest. And I am doing this from home because obviously, if you know anything of what's going on with Texas, Texas is snowed in with no power, with no water. And so we're just trying to make the best out of a havoc situation. And so my office no longer has power, but my home does, fortunately enough, where I'm able to still do this talk show. And so I just want to hope that this inspires and this encourages you. For those who are watching this live and those that will even watch the replay, I hope that you get something from this. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to my guest, Dr. Shamika Dean. Is a thought leader, transformational teacher, and trendsetter. She's known for teaching transformational truth in a thought-provoking way. She believes to change the world, you have to challenge the norm. Her approach to marketing and the marketplace is that there is always a different way, even if you're the one who has to develop it. Dr. Shamika Dean believes that belief systems become birthing systems. Whether she's speaking about being a mogul or a marketplace influencer, or as a marketing solutionist, her job is to help people break through the barriers of broken belief systems to birth and build something different. Dr. Shamika Dean, award-winning business owner and YouTube influencer, is the #1 profit strategist for business owners, organizations, and corporations. With over 60,000 followers across multiple social media platforms, she's made her stamp as an influencer, innovator, and income strategist. Dr. Shamika Dean sent social media into a frenzy when she shared her story of being fired in a 17-minute video of over 400,000 views, following up with over 1.9 million views in her segment with Steve Harvey on Steve on Watch. Shamika captures the attention of her audience with her real, raw, and relatable content in a creative and innovative way. She sold out multiple 4-city tours and dominated the online space with virtual events. She's taken over 4,000 people through her training in just 3 years using her unique marketing system. Dr. Shamika Dean is one you call when you need a strategic shift or a scalable solution. Whether she's on tour, speaking, or teaching on a live stream, she shifts the mindset of her audience in a way that leaves them forever changed. You can follow Dr. Shamika on her website, which is www.shamikadean.com, www.nextlevelbusinessacademy.com, which I have been a part of, and Instagram at Dr. Shamika Dean, as well as Facebook, Dr. Shamika Dean. So let's just welcome her to the Live Talk Show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Man, I have so much that I want to say because personally, you have shared your story. And what I like to do is, which is strategic, is read people's bios so people can know where you are now. But the fact that you have a backstory, the fact that you do have a testimony of what God has done as far as transformation within your life. So tell us about it.
Well, I guess I can just start, with my testimony. I went into work one day for what I thought was going to be my annual review. And I mean, I remember the day, like, you know how they say you remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I walked in and my manager said, we're going to do your review in the executive wing to avoid, disturbances, because I was in a management position. And so as we walked down the hall and we entered into the executive wing, like I literally felt this shift from like a cold. It just felt like really cold as soon as I stepped into the executive wing. And we went around the corner and she said, we're going to do it in here. Where in there was the HR director. So me initially, I thought, man, they must be about to give me another raise or offer me another position, because the position I was in, it happened the same way. I was taken to the executive office, the executive wing, and I was offered the management position without being interviewed. Well, as they were going through my review, she said, in order to keep the position that you're in, you need a 3.0 review rating. She said, your rating is a 2.98. And I was just like, what? You know, it was just so weird. And so then she said, normally we would allow you to go on probation, for, I think she said like 60 to 90 days or something like that, to increase your review rating before we finally decide, if you'll be able to maintain the position. She said, however, we've decided that we're going to terminate you. And so I sat there and I said, thank you. I've been waiting for this. That's what I said. Yeah, because what happened was God had told me to leave the job 2 years prior. But like many people, I didn't have a backup plan, right? I didn't have a plan B. But when you trust God, you don't need a plan B. You only need plan G, God, right? And so, but I didn't have a backup plan. My faith wasn't where it is now, of course. I was really fairly new, honestly, into salvation. And I was just, so when he told me to quit, I didn't quit out of fear. And then I got the promotion. So I thought, man, that must have been the devil, right? Trying to make me quit the job, because clearly God wouldn't tell me to quit, knowing I was about to get a promotion like shortly after. But one thing I know to be true about the enemy is he will dangle what you desire in your face to derail your destiny. He will do it.
Now break that down, because that's really good.
Mm-hmm. So my plan and my desire was to climb the corporate ladder of someone else's company, right? And I had, in my family, no one had reached those kinds of results or that level of success in a Fortune 500 company. My plan was to be the one to break that statistic and to do something different. But the plan God had for me was for me to become the CEO of my own company. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, so, I do.
So it was so much greater. His plan was so much greater than my plan. And so what the enemy did was, let me give you what you desire, right? Because I know that if I give you what you want, it's going to derail you from the destiny that God had predestined for you.
Right. So don't take the first offer. So in other words, don't take the first offer, even though it's aligning up with your desires of your heart. It's a good one, but it's not what God has.
Right. Is it good or is it God? And that's the thing that, when I look back in retrospect, I realize that. And that's why we have to be careful when we say, God will give us the desires of our heart. He will. But the first part of that scripture says, delight yourself in him. Right. And so what that means is when I delight myself in him, he's going to give me what to desire first. And then he'll give me what I desire, because now it aligns with his will for my life and his plan for my life versus my own. Right. The plans we think we know what's best for us. We think we know, yes, this is the way, this is the plan, this is the route. Right. But our plans will always lead us to destruction if we are not consistently humbling ourselves and submitting our will and our plan to his.
Amen. Dr. Shamieka, and you said that you were the first one to branch out of your family to pursue what God has placed in you to pursue. So what does that look like for those that may be in the same position, you know, that you were once in, where they have to make a decision, and it's a decision to walk by faith and to really pursue that thing that God has called them to do, and they know that God has called them to do it, but now I don't have any examples. I don't have really resources, or if there are resources, I don't know how to tap into that.
Right. So I'm not the first entrepreneur. My mom actually is very successful in real estate. You know, she's been her own boss for as long as I can remember. So I'm not the first in that regards. I was the first to I would have been the first, you know, to climb up the corporate ladder of someone else's business, like that journey.
Okay.
So it's not entrepreneurship. My mom has always been an entrepreneur. Even my grandmother, you know, she worked, and I have other family members as well. But the path that I'm going, no one is on that journey as far as being in the online space, you know, building, you know, marketing. No one in my family has done that, and no one built their business using social media. I was the first to do that.
Okay.
So what I've learned is that, you know, we have to become the blueprint, and I had to accept the reality that I am the blueprint for many to come behind me. And it can be very scary. It can be very intimidating because you do not have that person you can go to and say, hey, how did you do this? Right. But the thing we have to find confidence, solace in is that we have everything we need in our hands. We have everything we need within us. And the reason we get stuck oftentimes is because we're looking without for what's already within. That's what happens. And so we begin to go and seek and search over here. And, you know, we want to lean on this person. Well, God is saying, no, I've already put in you what you need. But the reason you're not maximizing it is because you're not using it. You're simply not using it. Right. So to the person that has to be the blueprint, you've got to learn to trust the God that is within you to guide you through the process. And I know that it sounds cliche, it's scary, but at the end of the day, if he didn't believe that you could achieve success, he would not have given you the assignment. If he didn't believe, or if he hadn't already equipped you with all of the tools that you need, he would not have given you the assignment. So what is the first thing that he told you to do? Oftentimes, we try to figure out the details of what we're supposed to be doing, which gives room to doubt. And that's where most people get stuck, because God will say, write a book. And what we'll do is we'll go research how to publish the book. We'll go research, you know, how to write the book. Instead of following the simple instruction, he said, write the book. You know how to write because you learned how to write in school. It's not your job to edit the book. It's not your job to do the interior design. It's not your job to design the book cover. It's not your job to do any of that. The reason you haven't found what to do next is because you haven't completed the first step. How do you write a book? You start with a word. The word becomes a sentence. The sentence becomes a paragraph. And then the paragraph becomes a page. And then the pages become a chapter. That's how you write a book. So when you begin to go and do the next step, or try to figure out the next step, the details, that's when doubt creeps in. And then you start thinking, maybe God didn't tell me to do this. Yes, he did. He told you to do it. But you tried to do the part that he didn't tell you to do. And that's why you're stuck. So start with what he told you to do first.
Right. And then all the rest that you need to complete the book will be added onto you. It will happen. But when you start with that one thing that he told you out of obedience, then everything else will follow. That's really good. That's really good. Dr. Shamika, I know from me watching your YouTube, because that's how I found you. I was searching on YouTube, and this is like years back, even when I was in corporate America working and doing whatever. And I do believe at one point you, like you said in your bio, that you were setting up tours to do, and you had came out to Texas. I want to say, I don't know if it was the Dallas area, and I was trying to make plans to get there. But then I started to, you know, see more of you like on YouTube and stuff. And then I started to follow you. And this is probably back in like 2016, I want to say, because this is during a time when I transitioned from California to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was listening to you and following you, it just so happened that, you know, God was stirring up some things within me, because in March of 2019, and some of you may know, he closed the door. I got fired on my 9-to-5 job, and he closed the door. And then I want to say in 2019, the preparation stages for me to do the talk show again, because I was doing it back in 2010 in LA, in California, whatever. And he brought it right back around. And then in 2020, I signed up for your Next Level Business Academy. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was able to create my own course, which is online, for, you know, transforming into your destiny. Wow. And so it's just been a lot of different things that I have caught from you and that I have learned from you. So just because of your obedience, and like you said, so many people have followed you and came across you. Dr. Shamika, if you don't mind, and I know that you've openly shared this, but if you wouldn't mind, if you want to, however you're led to, but I really want you to speak about that thing that happened to you where you were molested, if you don't mind, because I was molested at 3 years old as well too. And the enemy tried to take my voice, and my voice was taken from me because I completely shut down and became an introvert, where I just went into myself and escaped a world of, you know, imaginary and all of that stuff. So if you can share that, because one of the things is that why you're so passionate and why you're so driven stems from what happened to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I was 10, I wasn't molested. I was raped twice. And I was actually penetrated. So at the age of 10. And, you know, again, the core of what I do is because every time I am reminded, or I think about a parent who has to choose between providing or protecting for their child, I have to be the voice for the child that didn't have a voice. You know, I have to be the voice for the child that doesn't see the value of their voice and is not able to speak up and speak out, because, you know, my mom was working, you know, when it happened to me. And, you know, she was providing, she was doing what she had to do. And it put me in the hands of, you know, someone who preyed upon my innocence and was able to violate me. And so one of the things that when you are violated, if you notice, there's always the fear that says, don't tell anyone. If you tell someone, I will do X, Y, Z, right? Or even if you say it, no one's going to believe you. And so as I began to go through my healing process, one of the things that God revealed to me was that the enemy was after my voice because my voice had so much value.
See?
He was after my voice because he knows that when I open my mouth and I begin to speak and decree and declare, when I begin to validate the vision that God has for my life, and I begin to speak into the lives of others, then it not only removes his power, but it helps us to birth a legacy of wholeness, of healing. It helps us to bring other people out of the pits that they're in. It helps us to bring them out of the bondage that they're in. We are the voice for the voiceless. And so if he can silence us, he sabotages the rest, right? He's able to sabotage them. He's able to derail or destroy them from really operating in their destiny. And so that's what he's after. He's really after the power of our voice, because we know the word was created from, the world was shaped and formed from a word, and our words have so much power. And so he's literally after your voice. He doesn't want you to say anything. He doesn't want you, to heal, because when you are healed, you begin to move and operate in a different capacity. When you're healed, you help other people to heal. And so, when I understood that he was really after my voice, it gave me even more courage to begin to, to speak up, speak out, to operate in totality of all that God has created me to be. And now I've literally reached millions of people because of that. Millions of people, and so To the person who is struggling, you have a voice that has so much value. And when we don't tell our stories, we leave other people stuck. When we don't tell our stories, we rob people of possibility. And so I just want you to have to be encouraged that your story is powerful. It's worthy of being told, and your voice will be heard.
And that is so good, and that is so rich, Dr. Shamieka, because you're right. We have the life and death in the power of our tongue. And it's like, how do you use your mouth? Do you use your mouth to speak death, or do you use your mouth to speak life and to uplift and to empower? And one thing about it is that when you do when you have things that have happened to you in your life and you want to keep those things a secret because of the guilt, because of the shame and the things that have, taken place, which are all lies from the enemy, the moment you expose it, the moment that you bring it to light, however you need to bring that thing to light, whether you're going to see a counselor, or you share it with a friend, or whatever may happen, that when you expose that thing, Satan no longer has dominion over it. He longer can hold it over your head and hoard it over you to keep your mouth shut. So that's really good. And so with you, Dr. Shamieka, did the generational curse stop with you? Like, have this happened to anyone else?
It hasn't happened in my in my children and things like that. The curse stops when you step into position, though. So I didn't fully step into position initially, but when you step into your position of authority and power, you can curse the curse. You literally can curse the curse. And so, as I stepped into it, I gave my children freedom, divine protection, and those types of things. So the curse will stop when you stand in your power and your authority to curse it.
And Dr. Shamika Dean, what are you doing right now? Where are you right now in life?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Right now, I honestly feel like I am still in somewhat of a transition. I believe that I stopped making transition a one-time thing, because I realized that, we continue to evolve. As the more we submit and surrender to God, He continues to evolve us to the next greatest version of ourselves. And so I am actually getting ready to host Market Like a Mogul Live, which is on March 11th. So I'm in the marketing space now, which initially I didn't realize that marketing was what and how I had always made money. It was just one of those things that I was so naturally gifted at it, because I'm, great with words and storytelling, that it was what I'd been standing out in the market doing. I just didn't realize it. So I really fully accepted it. And so I'm in the marketing space, getting ready to launch Moguls and Millions, which is going to become an annual event for women entrepreneurs. And so I'm getting ready to release that after my Market Like a Mogul Live event is done. I just submitted my book to the editor. So Market Like a Mogul is also a book. I just submitted that to the editor. And just really just operating, like I say, in the things that I have been gifted and anointed to do, really heavily in that mental health space, helping people to get their mind right. Because I understand that wealth transformation starts with wealth transfusion. So it starts with everything that's going on within. So those are the things that I'm working on right now. Very excited about it. Some other things are under the wraps. I'll release those, of course, in time. But I'm just enjoying where I am. I'm free. I am. I don't know if I've ever really been happier in my life than I am now. And I know that it is because I have really identified the reality of who I am and all that comes with me. So I'm in a really, really great space.
That is so great. And I signed up for Market Like a Mogul. So I'm looking forward to that in March. Like everything that you put out, everything that you do, I'm right there for it, along with some other women who I follow and listen to. And so I'm very excited. So right now I'm about to hit you with the hot track because I know you have things to do, so I don't want to keep you. But
Okay.
these are the fire rapid questions that I ask all my guests just to get different perspectives, just to see, what it is that you do with your own personal walk with Jesus. So the
Okay.
first question is, what is your favorite verse in the Bible?
Oh goodness, I have many. I would say at this moment, it is he who has begun a great work in you will continue until the return of Christ. Um, and that's my favorite because it just always reminds me that I am a work in progress and that God loves me so much that he's willing to continue to do that work in me so that I can become all, that he's created me to be. And so I think that's my favorite one at this moment, but I have many.
Mm-hmm. Number two, how do you get into the presence of the Lord?
I created what I call 5 by 5 by 5, which is a strategy of prayer and praise. And so my prayer, it starts out with praise and worship. So that's like the first. I do this. I did this as like a beginning thing, just to kind of teach people how to do that. So prayer and praise. I'm sorry, praise and worship. And then it is the petition, because I believe I shouldn't be asking for his hand until I saw his heart. Right. So until I've gotten in that place of worship and I've thanked him for who he is and what he's done and all of those things, then I ask him, for something. And then the last five is about pause. And that's where I just sit in the presence of God and allow him to speak to me, because we shouldn't go into prayer and come out without an answer,
Mm.
because it says, when you pray, believe and you shall receive. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, when we ask him, he answers. And so my prayers, when I go into his presence, he says he always answers me. So when I go into his presence, I should come out with an answer. And so I'll sit and just in silence. And so I think a lot of times we do drive-by prayers. We come by, we drop off our prayers, and then we keep it moving. Right. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't take the time to pause and just allow God to pour into us and really speak to us. So that's what I do.
Wow, nuggets, nothing but nuggets. Number three, what do you think heaven is like?
Man, I think it's a place of just rest and reverence. Like, that's what I think. A place of rest and reverence. We're able to rest from the cares of this world and reverence the God that created it all.
Number four, who would you like to meet in heaven? It can be from the New Testament or Old Testament.
Esther. Uh, I've always been a fan of Esther, because when I wrote my book, Positioning Yourself to Be a Wife, I was going to write about the story of Ruth and Boaz, right? Because everyone talked about the story of Ruth and Boaz. And I read all this content. And right as I got ready to submit the manuscript, the something crashed, something happened, and it crashed the document that I had. And so I was just crying. I was like, I'll finally finish this book and da da da. And so Holy Spirit said, you didn't write what I told you to write about. And I was just like,
Woo.
yeah. And so he said, I didn't tell you to write about Ruth and Boaz. You wrote about it because of what other people had been writing. I want you to write from Esther. And I never understood why until I wrote and he gave me revelation, right? Because I teach about prophetic writing, and that's how it was birthed. And so Esther she was a rule breaker. She was a trendsetter. She was a leader. She was a generational curse breaker. She was a legacy builder. And she shifted a legacy because of her fearlessness. Like, even when she was afraid at first, she did it anyways. She did it anyways,
Yeah.
And so when I look at her, I look at the process of purification that she had to go through to become the woman that she was, a woman of strength, a woman of faith, a woman of fortitude, and a woman who saved her family. So when I look at Esther, I just see me. And I would just like to sit and just ask her, to what was it like, like what was your process? What were you thinking? And, all of those things. But it would definitely be Esther.
And question number 5, given the opportunity where God manifests himself to you in a small, quiet, intimate setting, what would you say to him face to face?
What would I say to him face to face? Thank you. I would say thank you, because I knew I would thank him for seeing in me what I couldn't see in myself, and for seeing so much value that you would think about me before you even created me, and you would create a purpose for me, and you would impart all of this goodness into me, So I would just have to thank him, because he is really that guy,
Yeah. And Dr. Shamika, this is the last question. This is like my bonus question, but this is my last question. Actually, this dropped in my spirit yesterday with everything that's going on around us. And I was talking to Miss Jones. She's, my prayer partner and more like a spiritual grandmother to me, because my grandmother passed away. But I call her often, and we, just talk, and I just listen to her wisdom and everything. And she was a guest on this show as well. And the question just arose in my spirit on the spot. And I said, you know what, I'm going to add that to the Fire Rapid Questions, because during these times, we don't know what lies ahead. And it's so easy to be in relationship with God, with the Father, when everything is going good, when the blessings are coming and it feels like an open heaven, like it's Christmas. But what happens when you are dependent on him, and in the current situation that we're in here in Texas, and your water is shut off, your lights is shut off, you're sitting in a place with no power, and you have your children looking up at you, wondering what's going to happen, how are we going to eat, how are we going to do these things, that if God does not bless you with another thing, or it doesn't turn out the way that you think it should, but he's still sovereign and he's still good, because this is a heart check issue right now. Would you still follow him to the ends of the earth, or would you still call him your Lord and your Savior, despite him not doing what it is that you want him to do? And even when you do go to him with the word, with the promise, and it does not come to pass, it just doesn't happen. Can you still sit here and say honestly that I will follow him no matter what, and that he is a good sovereign Father?
I would say that I have, even when it didn't. You get what I'm saying? I've been without food. Yeah. I've been scraping coins from the floor mat of the car to buy bread for my children. I've been there. I've been where I had $0 in my bank account and I had no idea how we were going to eat. I've been where I've had to take my children to family members' houses so that they could eat, because we didn't have food in our house. Right. I've been to where, we had to sit in one room in the house because we only had heat in that house, in that room. I've been in those places. I've been on government assistance. I've been where I've only had $164 a month and I had a house full of bills and 2 kids. So, well, actually 3, because, when I first got married, when my husband and I first got married, he was living in Texas, and I was still in our hometown, and he had to, he was a private just to get in the military. So he didn't have any real money. And I wasn't able to work because our son had, he was on a breathing machine. And so no daycares would take him because they felt he would be a liability. So I've been in those places where there were rats chewing through the ceiling in my home. I've been there, and I still trusted God. When I was in those places and God was sending people were sending money in my mailbox that had never met me before. Right.
Right.
And God putting sending us a lump sum of money from somewhere that we didn't know was coming. I've been in those places where I've had to trust God. I've been where my life was on the line, right?
Right.
I was caught in a tornado with me and my kids. So I know that it's so my answer is yes, because I've been there. I've been where it didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. I've been there and I'm still trusting God. Did I go through a moment of transition where my faith was tested and I began to question? Yes, I did. But you know what? The questions are what increased my faith. The questions are what helped him to reveal himself to me in a more deeper and intimate way. So yes, been there, done that. And I'm still there.
And with that said, that is our show. I just want to thank everyone for watching this, for liking this, sharing this, and subscribing this. And one of my deep heart prayers and the desire of my heart is that right now, during these unprecedented times that we're in, because no one knows what the future holds. You know, even prophets see in part and hear in part. You know, and so no one knows the full picture of what is to come other than God. And that's where faith comes in. Just like Dr. Shamieka has broken down the things that she has been through. And that's why this show about testimonies, his life, my testimony, that's why, to highlight how good and how sovereign he is. And that it's so easy to get caught up in the situation and in the circumstances. But when you rise above the storm, like eagles, when they rise above the storm and come into an altitude of peace and come into an altitude of where there's a surrendering there. And then they look down and see all the chaos. God is asking us, I do believe, in this hour, in this time, to come up higher in him, to trust him more, to give him a little credit than what we've been giving him, whether we're complaining or anything. And just look back over your own life and situations and see how God has delivered you, how he has rescued you. Because he's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He does not change. So
Absolutely.
I want to thank my guest, Dr. Shamieka, for taking this time to come on and just sharing her story, because our gifting and our stories and everything will make room for us. And also how many people will be blessed by this during this time, you know, of whatever they may be going through all across this nation, across this world. And so I just want to say thank you for coming on and being transparent. And to those who are watching this, stay encouraged. We are all in this together. And if anything, I posted a video yesterday on my Facebook about these birds, and they're still outside today. And we know that in Matthew 6:26, he talks about that the bird has not sown, the bird does not reap, it does not gather, it does not any of that. But how valuable are you? And he showed me that. He sometimes speaks to me through nature and everything. And when I saw that, it was like these birds that were posted up on the tree branches, they were coming up higher above the storm. They wasn't in the snow. They were even flying all around or whatever, but not once in the snow where it was on the ground, where they can be, where they can fly to. But they were in a higher ground, on an altitude on the branches. And that's how we have to be with our thinking.
Absolutely.
With our emotions and with our feelings. And so with that said, God bless you all. Please stay safe. Please do what you can and just seek the Father during this time. If anything, seek him during this time and stay encouraged. I'm in the same thing. Listen, my water is completely cut off, but that's okay because I got bottled water. And you know what I did this morning? It was easy just to stay in the warmth of my bed. I do have heat, thank God. But I took that bottled water and I put the bottled water on my toothbrush and I brushed my teeth because hygiene is still important. And I took a cold bottled water and I poured it on my face and lathered my face to wash it, made up my face to be ready for this interview. So you do what you can with what you have.
And he'll increase it every single time.
That's right. And when you stay faithful, because I don't have my office to operate out of because the power is shut out. But guess what? I got my laptop, I got my internet, and even if I didn't have that, I got my cell phone with my hotspot. So you do what you have to do to come through, because you're more than a conqueror. I'm more than a conqueror. And Dr. Shamika Dean is more than a conqueror because she conquered a whole lot. So with that said, God bless you. I'm not going to keep you. Thank you so much.
You.
Be encouraged.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.